So muscle mass had increased by 7%, body weight also increased by 5%. So a positive change in body, what we would typically consider a positive change in body composition. Again, this is what you would expect from increasing follistatin expression. Again, you could probably get the same effect from anabolic steroids.
Yeah.
Right. Is follistatin safer than anabolic steroids? I have no idea. We just don't know because there's no data, right? Again, this is part of the inability to do a real risk reward calculation. Like there are a small number of people who have ever had follistatin gene therapy. They were, you know, most, if not all of them at this secret island, right? Nobody's had this for more than 2 years, I'm guessing. I'm guessing this company hasn't been around for more than 2 years. So we really have no insights on efficacy or safety.
I wonder, similar to what you're doing with rapamycin, we're kind of like, you pay attention to what people are doing sort of experimentally. I wonder if this company is doing that with their clientele. Like obviously Bryan's an N of 1 now, they can add.
Yeah, I suspect they are. But again, you know, will that data ever see the light of day? I don't know. And if it does, will it be on YouTube or will it be in a scientific publication, right? Yeah. So, but I think it's also, you know, worth appreciating though, the situation with like off-label use of rapamycin and this therapy, in my view, are very different, right? We have decades of data on people taking rapamycin at different doses for different lengths of time with different underlying conditions. We know a lot, actually, about the risk profile of rapamycin. We know nothing about the risk profile of follistatin gene therapy. Again, that's why I think it's impossible to do really a rational risk-reward calculation in this case. And again, that's independent of the gene therapy technology itself. So there's the cargo. If you think of follistatin as the cargo that the gene therapy is delivering, then there's the backbone, which is this Minicircle backbone. Now, I should say Minicircle, this company, Minicircle, is not the only company that's using this idea of Minicircle backbones. That's being developed by larger, you know, more established pharmaceutical companies as well. But we still have very little information on, you know, what are the potential unanticipated consequences of this Minicircle technology. So one of the advantages of this Minicircle technology, I talked about you've removed some of the bacterial sequences. It also doesn't integrate into the genome. So this is carried outside of the genome. It's called an episome, meaning it's a circular DNA molecule that's not in the chromosomes. And in that sense, it's transient. I don't know exactly how long this lasts, but it's probably on the order of months. So it's not a permanent change to the genome. That's an advantage. That's true most of the time. But in biology, things always go wrong at low percentiles. So without exception, if you put 100,000 of these minicircles into a cell, you will get a few integration events where the circles integrate into the genome just by recombination. And so there is some risk of permanent genetic change. It will happen. There's a pretty good chance when it does happen, it's not going to hit anything important, but it might, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like, you can kind of think of it like, you know, if we have space debris that's re-entering the atmosphere that's not going to burn up before it hits the ground, there's a pretty good chance you're not going to hit anybody's house, but it might.
Yeah. All right.
So that will happen with this kind of technology at some frequency, probably on the order of, you know, tenths or thousands of percentiles. But again, we're talking about typically having tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of these circular DNA molecules in a cell. It's going to happen.
I see.
So we just really don't know what the long-term risks are. And, you know, this whole idea of doing this at an offshore clinic, I don't know. I mean, it's almost inevitable somebody's going to die.
Okay.
There are always adverse events from even the most basic procedures, even in, you know, hospitals that are trying to do everything right. It's almost inevitable somebody's going to die. Yeah. And so the question is, and maybe somebody's died already and we just haven't heard about it, right? Again, that's part of the uncertainty of these offshore clinics is, you know, we hear about people dying in medical tourism. It probably happens a lot more than we hear about because there's no reporting obligations.
Yeah. Covered up. Wow, that's a little scary.
I mean, it's just reality.
Yeah.
So that's why you really do, you know, I would suggest need to try to take a rational risk-reward analysis for all of these things. And to me, this just doesn't add up.
Your final stats. So
this is the speed of aging has reduced even further to 0.64, a new personal best. lower than 99% of all 20-year-olds. So he's referring to the Dunedin pace epigenetic metric, which is thought to monitor the rate of change in health with age, or rate of aging.
Yeah.
So a lower number there reflects, in theory, a slower rate of aging.
Yeah.
And I guess he's claiming that after this therapy, it reduced. I don't know what it was at before, but to 0.64. Again, as with all of these clocks, I take it with a grain of salt. This would be consistent with a positive change. Is it as compelling as positive changes in body composition, which he also saw? No, in my view, probably not. But it's certainly consistent with the idea that this is having a positive effect on at least the epigenetic marks associated with aging.
Okay. And so the 0.64 means in 1 year, he theoretically ages 0.64
years
of a year. Okay.
Yes. I guess my honest answer is I'm kind of uneasy with it. Like, I think it sort of glorifies this idea of going to an offshore clinic to get gene therapy, which, again, I'm not, I've already talked about my concerns about the lack of regulation and having to trust the people at the company or the offshore clinic. That's one piece of it. This, to me, though, just feels like a very an intervention for which there is very limited evidence for benefit and really no information about safety.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it got over 600,000 views, so I'm not sure what it's a pretty big reach, but
yeah. I mean, again, we'll see where he goes from here. I sort of feel like, this idea that you have to keep taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
I don't know where you go from gene therapy.